Let me start off by saying that this video isn't going to be about arguments for or against legalized abortion. Instead, it's going to be something more like an internal memo or a bit of a family meeting directed at people who consider themselves faithful and practicing Catholics. So if that's not directed at you, or if you're somebody who wants to look at some content that considers the question of the issue of abortion, then I would invite you to go check out a video I did earlier on that, either linked here or somewhere. Now, if you're still here watching, then let me start by saying that I get it, this is a difficult and controversial topic. My intention with this video isn't to point fingers or to try to position myself as a better or more faithful Catholic than anybody else. My hope is that I could possibly challenge you to consider your beliefs as well as your voting habits which reflect them. And if I stumble through this or make the case in an obnoxious or even a fallacious way, don't let my shortcomings prevent you from taking a step back from your default assumptions and evaluating them in a critical way. As faithful, practicing Catholics, we all know that the Church teaches that abortion is wrong because it necessitates the deliberate killing of a defenseless, helpless, innocent human life by those who aren't defenseless. It involves the strong killing the weak, which is never justified. So that's what we recognize is going on, and it's happening in a systematic way on a very large scale. But maybe you're somebody who thinks of themselves as being more sophisticated than a single issue voter. I can hear some of you saying, what about concern for the poor or the environment or children at the border? Aren't these pro-life issues as well? And for the sake of keeping this applicable, I'd like to focus it on the American political context, even though I'm not American myself, because for whatever reason, the alternatives seem to emerge in a very pronounced way in that political situation. In the case of both parties, you have examples where they give lip service to issues that Catholics are concerned about in their platforms. You might say, yes, Republicans are opposed to abortion, but Democrats seem to show concern for the poor and the environment and health coverage and other things that Catholics are concerned about. So the challenge is for each Catholic to try to choose from among them which is the most important. And I get it, when you go through the entire platform of each party and try to weigh them accordingly, it's not easy to figure out, well, which one outweighs the other. So I think it's important to try to simplify this question with an analogy, and I want to invite you to consider this. Let's anthropomorphize these two platforms as if they were two individuals, and then let those individuals behaviorally represent these different issues so that we can compare them. So let's do that. Let's consider some alternatives here. Which is more alarming to you? Which is in more need of critical, legal, and moral intervention? A person who doesn't give to the poor, or a person who is in the habit of murdering people in their spare time? And I think you probably see where I'm going with this. And you could use this as a way to evaluate all of the issues. Just keep going on down the line. So maybe one of them drives a gas-guzzling truck and pollutes unnecessarily. The other goes on a killing spree every long weekend. One of them isn't willing to pay for his neighbor's health insurance. The other strangles babies whenever the opportunity arises. Now, when you compare things that way, I'm sorry if that's graphic and inflammatory, but I think it really helps to evaluate, and the choice really, in my mind, becomes obvious. How could you not see which of those alternatives carries more moral gravity? Okay, so maybe that's too simplistic. Let's try to broaden it back out to something like a national platform. So let's imagine a political party whose platform goes something like this. They want to provide a national welfare program such that, if possible, everyone's livelihood would be accounted for. They want to cancel burdensome high-interest debts. They want to expand old age pension and welfare. They want to nationalize all the businesses in the interest of sharing the profits and wealth with the people. They want to provide free higher education, especially for poor students who show a lot of potential. What else? They want to have a national childcare program and, let's say, a national healthcare program. That sounds nice. But there's one little catch, as there always is. It's never as good as it looks. So in this case, they're gonna do a little genocide. Now, would you or I look at that and say, yes, I'm pro-life, but I'm not a one-issue voter? Free education, free childcare, free healthcare, those are pro-life issues too. I'm not going to let a little genocide preoccupy all of my democratic attention. I would like to imagine that no reasonable person would look at those and say, I don't know, how do I weigh these two possibilities? Clearly, the right to life outweighs all other considerations. If you don't have that, then none of the rest really matters. And if all of this seems too hypothetical, if you're kind of scoffing at that analogy and saying, yeah, we're straining the limits of our imagination to think of a party like that. Well, maybe I should point out that those are articles from the platform and policy of Nazi Germany. Like I said earlier, this is a question of trying to prioritize the issues in a bit of a hierarchy, because neither party represents all of the issues that are of concern to Catholics. And I think it's helpful for us to remind ourselves that as Catholics, that we believe that God revealed himself, and therefore what is good and true, in stages through salvation history, based on a priority of what should come first. He didn't give Moses the Sermon on the Mount. He started with the basics, with the 10 Commandments, because it's no use telling people to pray for your enemy and to turn the other cheek if they haven't figured out yet that it's probably a bad idea to murder people. In other words, some concerns take a sequential priority as per God's design. The Decalogue of the 10 Commandments, that comes first. And once you've got that nailed down, then you can move on to the higher teachings of someone like Jesus. If you can't get everybody behind something like the 10 Commandments, then you stay there until you can. It's no use trying to move on to higher levels of morality, like making private healthcare illegal, until you can all agree that making murder illegal in all its forms is worth doing. Lastly, can I ask a question that really nags me in the midst of this debate? Why should we listen to somebody who says that they're interested in protecting the helpless while simultaneously advocating for murdering some of the helpless? Doesn't that strike you as a blinding inconsistency? It seems like a lot of people are hedging their bets against what they don't know and what they do know. Even if we granted that public healthcare, free education, public housing, and public welfare, that these things all are morally equal to the issue of abortion, how do we know that the Democratic Party is actually going to solve these things? How do we know that their policy is actually going to serve the interests of the poor and the vulnerable? Because if you look at a lot of the regions where the Democratic Party has been governing exclusively for a long time, it just doesn't seem to be the case. Cities where they rank the highest for homelessness, are almost all exclusively Democrat cities. The top 10 most dangerous cities in the US all have Democrat mayors, and you have to know that it's the poor and minorities who suffer the most in situations like that. So it seems to me that it's not a sure thing that the Democratic Party's policies actually do help the vulnerable and the poor for sure. But what we do know for sure is that they are committed to increasing the access to abortion, and that they are committed to protecting organizations like Planned Parenthood so that they can fire up those ovens without any interference. What we do know is that abortion rates fell by 20% between 2011 and 2017. That's over 200,000 lives. Those are staggering numbers. If the trade-off is between all the things that the Democrats claim to be able to fix in spite of their record and 200,000 people deliberately killed every single year, then the choice seems obvious to me. And since I'm not an American, I hope it seems obvious to you. Hey, thanks for watching that. If you enjoyed it, then be sure to like and subscribe for more. And if you want to support the making of content like this, then please consider joining my online community, The Reinforcements. It's kind of like Patreon, but instead of being beholden to a big tech company, it's a website I built entirely myself, so there's no risk of us being censored or shut down or anything like that. There are hundreds of people who have already signed up, and our mission is to renew and reinforce the church. So if that's you, then come check it out. As an added bonus for certain tiers, I will also send you a gift box from Glory and Shine, which is a Catholic family-owned and operated company. They make bath and body products. They're their beard balm I'm supporting, or I'm sporting right now. I'm not just a spokesperson, I'm actually a customer. So even if you don't join the reinforcements, maybe check them out anyways. Glory and Shine, they're an amazing company.